Never have I ever smoked weed. Never have I ever pissed on the side of a police station. And never have I ever played a city builder game. Until now. Today, an FPS grinder gremlin that has never had to use my brain in a game in my life ever before, am reviewing a city builder game unlike every other game I have ever played in my life, Against the Storm. In short, Against the Storm is a roguelite city builder game where you have to build settlements in order to get further on the map with each campaign in an attempt to save the city from the storm, hence the name of the game. This works directly into the lore of the game quite nicely. Essentially, you play as a viceroy to the queen of the land, leading citizens of the smoldering city through the aggressive wilderness to secure a future for the civilization's last survivors. Originally, the land was bolstering until the blight storm made it this way, and you play as our last hope. As the player succeeds further and further with each cycle, more of the story is unveiled through the various systems in the game, but this is the basic premise. Moving on to the gameplay though, it is not basic whatsoever. Now, keep in mind that I have never played a city builder in my life, but I have a good feeling that this is a more advanced take than others, which is what makes it so fun. A basic game of Against the Storm starts with a hearth in a warehouse, and it is up to the player to decide how they want to go about winning the game, which is done by reaching the required amount of resolve before the queen gets too impatient, normally taking a little more than an hour for newer players per settlement. The way a player gets resolve is by exploring the glades on the settlement map, completing various orders from the queen, or simply satisfying the needs of the citizens through the settlement. While it may seem simple in nature, I can promise you it is not, and it can get hectic really quick, especially if you are playing on the higher difficulties. Let me explain. On each settlement, you will be given 3 of 5 races of citizens, each with their own unique strengths, weaknesses, and needs. If a species has negative resolve, meaning you are doing a really terrible job of caring for them, they will just leave, or worse, die, and oftentimes these things are unavoidable. This is because you have to worry about their shelter, their food, the fuel for the hearth, their amenities, the hostility of the forest. Okay, yes, it's a lot, but what I'm trying to get at without boring you too much is that Against the Storm is an incredibly deep and complex game that makes no two settlements alike ever. The resources you have to your disposal will always be different. However, it is important to note that this kind of take on a game is not for everyone, especially those that are not used to city builders like me. There is quite a steep learning curve, and taking the time to learn all of the intricate systems the game has is something that can take a bit of time to grasp. To be honest, at the time of writing this script, I have about 20 hours logged, and I still couldn't give you a basic rundown of everything. It's not like the last review I made on RoboQuest where you could just pick it up and play the game and essentially just get it. That being said, it is because of that depth of gameplay that really allows this game to set itself apart. This game functions in waves where it'll make you feel like you are doing a really good job and have a clear path to victory. And then you'll have a ton of oh shit moments all at once when the storm hits and you have to problem solve fast. Quite frankly, that is the beauty of the game. You have so many resources to utilize, and sometimes you have to take a cut that is unavoidable, which is generally never true in any game ever. There is almost always a way out nowadays, but not in this game. To make up for the inevitable losses you will have in the game at some point, as you learn the game, you will also get upgrades to your citadel, which unlocks new concepts little by little to keep the game fresh and interesting. Overall, the gameplay loop is so deep, but it takes a bit to learn, admittedly. But if you were going to sit there and manage settlements again and again and again, surely it gets boring after a while, right? Well, yeah, it should, but it doesn't. Part of this is due to the way the gameplay loop is set up, yes, but the other part is just the satisfaction building a city provides through aesthetics and sound. Starting with what you can see, every building has its own unique look that makes it easy to understand once you get the ball rolling and begin to get the game. It is easy to see what resource does what at a glance, and the UI is pretty intuitive once you get started without cluttering the screen like it could. For example, if you want to use an alternative ingredient for a specific product, you can click on it to reveal a menu that shows you what you can transmute the ingredient with. This saves so much screen space from unnecessary clutter, and if the developer that implemented that sees this, kudos to you. Aside from the UI, each environment looks unique. Each building tells a story, and so much information and emotion is conveyed efficiently, which is just chef's kiss. Moving to what you can hear, however, this is where the game really knocks it out of the park. The sound of wood being chopped is thonky. The harvesting is crisp, and the sound of a product being created is clean. Not only does it sound good, but it is practical too. When important events happen, they all have their own soundbite, like when a glade gets revealed, or when a challenge appears, or my favorite, when the storm cycle begins. This song slaps. Not because I think it's a jam or that I would listen to it on its own, but its ability to create tension is unmatched. Even if I don't have the coined oh shit moments happening during each and every storm, the song makes me feel like those moments are on the way. The way the music creates waves of anxiety followed by periods of warm respite makes the game feel more engaging, which is something I feel a lot of city builders struggle with, at least for me. So while the music maybe isn't as crazy good as RoboQuest amongst others, the most important part is that it is fitting. It isn't too much, it gets the point across, and it creates the tension and release it was going for. My conclusion, the game's visual and audio design are perfectly done and really amplify the already strong core gameplay loop, which perfectly transitions us to the important question, how does Against the Storm innovate on the city builder genre? While I may not be the most well-versed within it, I can say that what led me away from many other builder-esque games is the lack of speed, immersion, and tension that really got the adrenaline pumping for me. Those games always felt pretty laid back and relaxing to me, which isn't necessarily a problem, it's just not exactly what I was looking for either. Focus the lens on Against the Storm that delivers exactly the opposite. Relatively fast, immersive, and intense gameplay that forces you to make difficult decisions to make ends meet and create a successful settlement. Perhaps I am wrong with this analysis of other city builder games, but Against the Storm delivered an experience that has left me entertained and will continue to do so for at least another 100 hours. But with most games, it is not without its flaws, and after reading a good bit of the Steam reviews, I agree that the main problem is that the learning curve is really steep. This is not a game that you are going to be able to just pick up and be good at. You will have to play the tutorial, read the manual, and even consult some expert advice on YouTube before you really start to define a grasp of this game. That just really isn't for everyone, which is purely understandable. But it is because of this that I'm going to give Against the Storm a strong 8 out of 10. While I wanted to give it a light 9, I just felt as though the difficulty is going to turn away a ton of people. But give this to someone that really likes this niche and they will love it. There is just too much disparity to label it as a classic in everyone's Steam libraries. Factor in that this is my first true city builder experience, and I feel as though this is pretty valid. What do you all think of Against the Storm? Do you love it, hate it, never even want to play it? Let me know in the comments down below. Aside from that, thank you all so much for watching, but until next time, I've got to peace out and Paz out. I'll see you in the next one.